Okay, we're going to talk through the ACT problems from your opener. These all came off of a test from 2017, so I'll kind of flip through the test. The first question you saw was about a 32-member French club is meeting. Now, as I read, I'm going to highlight some important stuff. So when I see the number 32, I'm going to highlight that just kind of so I can come back to it. 32-member French club is meeting to choose student government representatives. The members decide that the representatives who will be chosen cannot be any of the 5 officers. So cannot is important. And then I noticed the number 5 again. 5 officers of the club. What's the probability? So there's my question. Really important. I see my question. Probability. And when I see probability, I automatically think fraction. That Louise, who is a member of the club but not an officer, will be chosen. So with probability, we start with how many people are what we want. And Louise is the only one we want, so we just have a 1 on the top. Now on the bottom is all of the members but not officers. So we need to take 32 minus the 5 because we don't want the officers. And 32 minus 5 would be 27. And then that's going to be our bottom number for probability. So 1 over 27, I come over here. It wouldn't not necessarily have been your C because your questions were alternating a little bit. So they're not all the same letter, but that 1 over 27. All right, so that was the first question. The second question you had was about the value, evaluating this. So a couple of things that you want to see is absolute values. You want to remember, make things positive. Order of operations. Remember order of operations. So it tells me to do parentheses first. So parentheses. So we're going to do inside of here, which is a -7. And then inside of this parenthesis, which is a 6. So I want to do the P first, parentheses. Then I would do any exponents. I don't have any exponents. So if I'd had exponents, I would do that next. Then we have multiplication and division, and we do have some multiplication. But before that, I need to take the absolute value of -7. Absolute value of -7 makes it a +7. And then we're going to do our multiplication. So we get 14, and we get 18, and we still have that negative. Then last of all, we have subtraction, and that's the last part we're going to do, is subtract that, and we get -4, which is my E on my case, but it might be a different on yours. So -4 would have been the next one that you saw. All right. Another question you saw was question 7 on mine, but it probably was question 3 on your thing. It says on a map, 1/2 inch represents 10. So I'm going to highlight that half and the 10 because those go together. To the town, that's 4.5. So that's important right there. 4.5 inches apart on the map below. So if every 1/2 represents 10, that's kind of like a ratio. Half goes to 10 miles. So if I have 4 1/2, I want to know what that goes to. You can change these to decimals if you want, if you're using a calculator, which you probably are. These two are connected to each other, and then we could find out what these are. I like to put what I'm looking for on the top though, so I'm going to flip-flop these around. So I'm going to go x over 10, and then that's going to put 4, and I'm going to change these to decimals, over 0.5. So in my calculator, I'm going to take that 4.5 divided by 0.5, and that is going to give me 9 equals the x over 10. And then I just multiply the 10 over, so x is 90. Now that is not the only way to get there. You could just kind of play around and think of how many halves are in 4.5 and kind of add up your way to that. You might have noticed if a half is 10, then 1 would be 20. So then 4 would be 80 plus the other half, just plus another 10, and you get your 90. So you could have played with it too. With ACT, there's not just one way. You can solve it in a multiple of strategies. Feel free to experiment around with that. we have another question. This one says that in a standard XY coordinate, the line represented by which of the following equations through 0, 7, so that's important, is parallel. Parallel is important. And then we have that. Now, parallel, you want to remember, means same slope. So when I see the word parallel, I think it has to have the same slope. So I look at my old equation and I find my slope. My slope is the number in front of the x. So my slope needs to be a -2. So right away, as I look at these choices, I can cross off anything that doesn't have a -2. Those don't have a -2 slope, so I can get rid of all of those choices. And then I just need to plug in the 0, 7. A couple ways you could do this. You could either do point slope. So if you learned point slope, then we plug in the point into here and here, and then you can solve out. Or you could do slope-intercept form, where you plug in for the y equals mx plus b. Your 7 is your y, -2 for your m. Your x is 0 plus your b, and that gives you b is 7. Either way that we go, we get that -2x plus 7. Okay. All right, the last one you guys saw on this test. Matt purchased a 60-foot long roll of chain link fence. He used the entire roll of fence to construct a rectangular pen for his dog. Given that the pen is 12 feet wide, what's the length? So as I read, I would have wanted to highlight or underline the 60, the 12, the fact that it's a rectangle. And often when they start throwing shapes at me, I start drawing. So I'm going to draw a rectangle so I can get an idea of that. And on my rectangle, I'm going to put the 12 feet wide. And I know if that's 12, then I know this is also 12. Now this 60 purchased chain link fence. So if I have a fence, would that be the area or would that be perimeter? I think chain link fence would go around the edges, which is perimeter. And perimeter is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. We know the width is 12, so I'm going to write up here. Can you see me to the side? Okay. Perimeter equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width of 12. I do know my perimeter, so they gave me 60 over here. So now we can solve for our length. Noticing our question is, what is the length? So 2 times 12 is 24. Then I'm going to subtract that 24. 36 equals 2L. Divide the 2. And I get 18 as my answer. All right.